Hey, troops, Roofing Geeks Adventures. Woo! So, it's been a packed Christmas media-wise. If you saw my previous video, we got action figures from McFarlane Toys. There's still the reverberations from Hawkeye and from Spider-Man. The Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness trailer just dropping, which I'm hoping to do something about it today. And Warner Brothers going, hey, us. Well, time to do the review of Matrix Resurrections, a no spoiler filled review and a spoiler pack. I'm gonna go off review. All right. Okay, so the quick no spoiler review. No spoiler review. I liked it. It's fun. Is it perfect? No. Lots of yada 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 yada. Because you're talking about a sequel to the fourth film, in which films 2 and 3 reactions ranged anywhere from meh to. So, I liked it. A good explanation of how people came back and yada yada yada. A little short on the action we were hoping for, but considering how revolutionary and epic the first film was, how do you top yourself? But it's a fun, logical ride. Okay, are we done? Yeah. Spoiler shield, okay? Spoiler shield. Holding nothing back. Okay, all right? Okay? You getting the eggnog. You heard, right? Right. And you over there getting the extra cookies. You heard, right? You sure? All right, you're on your own. When the first Matrix came out, it was one of those films that it's one of the you heard the rambling and the hype. A generational film, blah 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 blah. So of course in the business you go, let's make a sequel. The good news is that they both financially did well. The Wachowski sibs. I don't think they went broke. I hope not. Actually, in all kidding aside, hopefully. But obviously, reactions, like even and I said in my non-spoiler filled review, reactions range. But of course, that never kept an industry from going, we can beat this horse. We can do it. Keep going. So, there have been, over the decades, assorted talk ranging from, will you guys just shut up to, uh-oh, you're serious. Then things actually got kind of serious. And, it was no longer just the generic, hey, we've got an idea. Lots of people got ideas, all right? Something was legit bubbling to tell a new story. And of course, our reactions were, oh no, now what? And then it just kind of, boop. And then all of a sudden, you guys are not kidding. And of course, the thing that was kind of a nightmare for all of us was, oh no, now what? Now what? Oh no, now what? Now what? What could you possibly do? The way it was, and as Keanu Reeves so eloquently put it, doing the promotions for this film, he gets the first call saying, hey, I got an idea for the film, and his first reaction is, I'm dead. So's Trin. Now let's be honest. As far as no, Trin did. Trin, she had the rebar and. But I mean, all we hype, technically all we saw of Neo was him getting carried off by the robots, kind of a creepy fashion. But you're dead. So what do you do? And actually, that's one of the first brilliant things that happens in the film is explaining how do you bring back dead people. Well, number one, if there's anything we've learned, especially from the MCU and from the business in general, nobody stays dead. The film opens actually with it opens very much the way the first film does. We're introduced to Bugs, and we're introduced to Sec, and they're having dialogue, and the images are very similar to the very first film. Oh, getting the call, we're hacking, weird signals, and we're even brought into the very first scene where we meet Trinity for the first time. She's on the phone, the cops are coming in, even the dialogue is the same, but everything's different. That's not Agent Smith. Wait, that's not the agent that we see the first time. All this kind of stuff's going on. So, everything's the same, but not. So, all this happens, yada, yada, yada. The first mind-blowing thing, though, that happens is that, you see the Matrix code that we've all been raised around, this warning. Oh, hack! Computer screen. Okay. First thing you see is Neo. It's John Wick Neo in a beard, long hair. Except that it's not Neo. It's Thomas. He's in an office. He's a computer gamer. And then all of a sudden, your brain a lot of people have talked about how meta this film is. It's very meta because all of a sudden, we're introduced to Thomas Anderson. He's a video game designer. The best video game designer in the world. Guess what game he created that was super successful? Yeah. The first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it's like that moment in the Lego movie, when all of a sudden, you realize that, wait a minute, this is in the kid's head. And you're just sitting there going, wait a minute, what's real? Which has always been the premise for the film in the first place. Reality, living within yourself, who you really are. There's a long list of philosophical questions that will go on forever. You're introduced to his team of fellow designers, yada, yada, yada. And, a lot of this first moments is all spent going, dear God in heaven, so what's been going on? Poor Mr. Anderson apparently had a bit of a breakdown after designing the game, yada, yada, yada. But of course, being a video game being the entertainment industry, we want you to make a sequel anyway. And this is where another movie that was notorious for being meta, Deadpool, kind of kicks in, because a lot of what happens is, he has been, Mr. Anderson. Sorry, gotta say it that way because it's funnier. Okay, maybe it's not that funny, but I think it's funny, and it's my video, so yeah. Anyway, he's talking with his team of fellow creators about trying to brainstorm, yada, yada, yada. And this moment is reminiscent of Deadpool because they are just cracking on the entire industry. Sequels, rebooting. It's kind of fun. You're either gonna think it's hysterical or you're gonna go, "Oh God, here we go again." I thought it was funny as hell because it's what we're thinking, honestly. That was the nightmare of any new reboot, reimagining, retcon whatever of the Matrix was. Yeah, it's the Biz talking. Um, and it's pretty dang funny. And you meet Mr. Anderson's boss. Now, memory search, you don't actually hear his name, but the thing is that as you're watching things, and as Mr. Anderson, he's trying to come to terms with what's going on, and you start to realize, yeah, this ain't right. Obviously, because there is no movie. The number two, start to realize, oh God, Agent Smith, what happened to you? And in the midst of all this, we are introduced to Mr. Anderson's. Yes, I'm going to do that to the end of days. To his therapist, played by Neil Patrick Harris. And then he explains, look, you had a major breakdown, yada yada yada. Just come on, come back. You're gonna be fine. And that was the brilliant thing about. Okay, maybe not so. I keep saying that. I'm sorry, but that was the umpteenth hard part about this whole thing is how are you gonna I mean no one stays dead. Unfortunately, that is the cold hard fact of the business. It is about continuing running like Star Wars, like everything else, running it into the ground as hard as you can to keep the revenue stream going and all sorts of other corporate terms. So, to find a thread to capture so all of us aren't just going, oh, hell no, is an amazing first start. So, this way of bringing him back was actually a pretty cool idea. Now, you're going, well, that's great, but, what happens past this point? Well, obviously, Bugs and Sec are both from the real world. So what has been happening? Well, that's, eventually, of course, he is captured and is brought back. And what we discover is that, well, it's been 60 years since the war with since the ceasefire, actually probably the best, most accurate way of putting it, the ceasefire with the machines. And, that's Sec and Bugs' team, they've all been searching for it. So what's happened in 60 years? Well, we go back. Now, the city, what happens is that, where we go back to the city, Zion got his butt kicked pretty bad in the last movie, but now they've built a new city, Io. A giant metropolis. It's gorgeous. And you're wondering, so, what happened? I mean, we got the new Morpheus, yada, 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 yada. The only person who's still alive is Niobe. She's the new leader for humanity. And what happened is that there was a ceasefire. Sort of, kind of, mostly. There was a ceasefire. And, what's happened is that a bunch of the machines, they're done too. They work with humanity. Morpheus, the new Morpheus we see, he is a program called a Synthient. He is the sum total of everything that was Morpheus. I love the new Morpheus. He reminds me of, remember in the second movie how there's the whole celebration thing in the giant cave, and Morpheus goes to Niobe to ask her to dance, and she goes, I remember when you used to like to dance. This is the Morpheus that used to like to dance. I like him. There's this energy. There's this. We'll get to more of that in a little bit. Yeah, what happens? We find out that there's a. We see and then there and actually a bunch of these Synthients help to rescue Mr. Anderson, Thomas, from his pod. But we also discover from Niobe that it's never that simple. Apparently, as the ceasefire moved forward, machines realized this isn't going as smoothly as we hoped. And what happened is that there's a schism, and some of the machines are like, no, 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 we don't want this. We need more power. We need them at almost any cost. So there was a war within the machines. Hence, this new reality, this new matrix that Thomas, yeah, the name's changing a little bit. Yeah. I know that's a change of the character. Blah blah blah. Anyway, led by the analyst. So, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, so what is humanity going to do about, well, Niobe, she's playing the safeguard. And you're kind of, one of the umpteenth layers of the film is the reflection to the geopolitical situation here. Decades of the Cold War, decades of all sorts of insanity going on. When it stops, there's a party that's desperate to have it stop. To, for once, not worry about the wolf at the door. For once, to just have a sense of peace. But unfortunately, there's a part who forgets that peace is tenuous at best. At worst, it can be built on a false premise. That's kind of what's happening here. Now, of course, from the previews, the thing you wonder, well, what about Trinity? We are introduced, the analyst, Neil Patrick Harris's character, we get that moment where, we learn that he's the new architect. And we learn that, that idea of how important the connection is between Trin and Neo. Trin's alive. Now you're going, what? Remember, from the business standpoint, nobody dies. Well, from within the rules of the Matrix, what? So what did they do? They're machines. They took their bodies and kept them alive. The machine, the machines led by, and there's this great moment where where the analyst is talking about how, yeah, I was there. I saw you die and all this stuff, and came up with this idea of, I know how to keep this going. So literally, the robots just took their bodies and rebuilt them. As far as the machines are concerned, we're hardware and software, and that's literally all they did. Rebuilt everything, stuck them in pods, and realized that, if we can keep this tenuous balance between the two of them, that keeps the entire system running. And that's what they've done. Now, of course, Neo's going, oh, hell no, we're going to rescue her. And, of course, you've got Niobe going, no, you're not, because we need to keep humanity alive. Within these 60 years, it's that old cliche, Rome was not built in a day. Well, you don't exactly rebuild, you don't rebuild humanity either, but they're getting there. And Niobe is desperate to not wreck it. So from this point, it's that moment of, so what are you going to do? How are you going to rescue her? Yada, yada, yada. You get the idea. It's a fun ride. The characters they create are fun to watch. Like I said, Sec, Bug, the new Morpheus, I love them. There's a life, there's an energy. And the fun thing, too, is that, as much as Neo is deified in the second movie, that was when he could do stuff. So, he definitely feels awkward about the whole thing. But flash forward to now, he hasn't done any of this in decades. So, as much as everyone calls him Neo, he's like, I'm not Neo. I'm just a guy. Literally, I'm just okay. I can do some things, but I'm not the guy you need. So, as he's going, as he walks through Io, there's this great moment where one of the guys is taking him into custody, and he's like, dude, you're a legend, man. I've never been with a legend. And poor Thomas is like, um, oh, that's right. And also, yeah, Mr. Smith is around. And and it's interesting to watch because one of the fun things that happens in the second film, things that's almost kind of interesting, is how how when Smith first comes back and he sends him the message and says, you freed me. So there's always been this kind of weird thing is that there's this adversarial thing obviously going on, but at the same time, if it weren't for Neo, Smith wouldn't get a chance to evolve into whatever this kind of crazy psychotic thing he is. So to see his new character come back, and the thing is, he's also kind of trapped in the same way Neo is. The analyst has kind of also kind of put a leash on Smith. He's still a psychotic kind of crazy guy, but it's fun to watch. And Neil Patrick Harris is wonderful as the analyst. No, he does not babble on and on and on in that really kind of creepy, weird monotone as the other guy from the second movie. He's Neil Patrick Harris, and he is this wonderful, diabolical, fun, hysterical character that you can't wait to get punched in the face because he's so mean and evil. It's fun to see Trin back, to see Carrie-Anne Moss back as Trinity. You see that chemistry between the two of them, between Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, that it is just so fun to watch. Is the film perfect? No. The story, I like the logic that they use to bring things back, yada, yada, yada. Yes, there's a lot of nostalgia. The good news is it's not quite as bad as sometimes. The problem The Force Awakens is a fun movie, but sometimes in that moment of, can we not replay A New Hope? In this, it happens less here. You get a lot of there's a fun callback where the Merovingians brought back. It's hysterical. He's as annoying as he was in the second movie, but a lot of fun. The problem you run into, unfortunately, is that one of the things they joke about in the film. Remember when I was talking about Mr. Anderson is talking with his video game team, yada yada yada. They talk about all the things we were afraid of, reboots and yada yada yada. Bigger is better is one of the other things. If you're looking for groundbreaking, they also use the term bullet time a lot. It's hysterical. They beat that term to death. The bad news is that you get fight scenes, some action scenes, yada yada yada. Now they're not horrible by any means, but the problem you run into is unfortunately what was created in the first movie. And actually, sort of kind of what they tried to duplicate in the second and third film was so groundbreaking and just so. How do you top that? And the thing is that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the exception that kind of proves the rule in some ways. That you can kind of keep this train going. I kind of wonder sometimes if Kevin Feige, I'm going all over the place because why not? Is actually from the future. He's a future self that's got a time machine, and he already made all these movies, in the year 2075, and he came back, so he knows what to do. Because every other time you try and do it, Harry Potter doesn't quite count because it's only 9 films. There's that stopping point. Okay. On the other hand, in some ways, you're trying. they're running into the issue that Lord of the Rings had, where, hey, we can do prequels, and reaction, you know. And then of course there's Star Wars, where things went all over the place, and it's like, eh. So anyway, to bring this back, sorry. The action scenes are, I mean, you still get to see wire fu and yada yada, but it's not quite the same. So unfortunately, you gotta beware of that. So what is the last word? Because I'm really going long here. It's a fun film. It is not perfect by any means, but it is. Yeah, I really gotta finish this. Oops. And you're getting bored right now. It's a fun film. It's not perfect, but it was. If you're going to bring them back, this was a good way to do it. Unfortunately, if you're looking for the most amazing, groundbreaking, wire fooish moments, but for a fun story, it is fun. There is a post-credit scene. It is not important, but if you like the whole meeting scene, where he's talking to his whole video game team, it's fun. It's fun. At least I thought it's fun, and I'm at work. Anyway, hey, good. Have a good holiday, everybody. May the force be with you. Yada yada yada. Be good to each other, okay, folks. Peace. Bye.